Bank of England's gloomy forecast for the UK's economy. Inflation will not fall as quickly as thought and is expected to remain above the government's 2% target for the next year or so, the Bank of England has said. This is the JP Morning News, also on the programme. Paralysed woman controls robot arm with mind to drink coffee. And Will Smith back in London for Men in Black 3D premiere. Good morning, I'm Gary Pendlebury. Inflation will not fall as quickly as thought and is expected to remain above the government's 2% target for the next year or so, the Bank of England has said. The bank also cut its growth forecast for this year to about 0.8% from 1.2% as it warned the UK economy will not return to pre-financial crisis levels before 2014. The Governor of the Bank of England, Sir Mervyn King, said that the euro area poses the greatest threat to the UK recovery. He warned that even with a credible and effective response from the Eurozone leaders, a prolonged period of sluggish growth and heightened uncertainty was still likely for the region. Sir Mervyn also confirmed plans were being drawn up by the bank, the Treasury and Financial Services Authority in the event of a major financial catastrophe such as the breakup of the Eurozone. Labour's Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls said the warning from the bank's governor was right. Later, during Prime Minister's questions, David Cameron stressed the need for reforms in Europe to boost growth as the Eurozone crisis continues to cast a shadow over the continent's economies. He also said of tackling the crisis, the Eurozone has to make a choice. It either has to make up or looking at a potential breakup. You've had a stroke that means you're paralysed, unable to move your arms and legs. But then scientists build an electronic gate into your brain that means you can move a robot arm just by imagining the movement in your brain. You get so good at it, you can control the robot arm to bring a cup of coffee to your mouth and drink the coffee from a straw. You'd smile, wouldn't you? 16 years ago, she had the stroke that left her paralysed, unable to speak, but mentally agile. 5 years ago, doctors surgically implanted electrodes into the area of her brain that controls movement, the motor cortex. When she imagines moving the robot arm, the nerve cells in the motor cortex respond. The electrodes pick up that response, pass it through a small box on the top of her head to electronics which decode the signals and move the robot arm. Hey presto, the coffee cup arrives at her lips. No wonder she's smiling. Okay, this is a long way off a practical system that could help lots of people paralysed by strokes or spinal injuries, but neuroscientist Andrew Jackson from Newcastle University told ITV News he can foresee a day when future devices could be practical for many people. They would use electrodes that are on the skin, not implanted, to avoid the risk of infection. They'd be wireless, sending signals just like your mobile phone, and the electronics that decodes your thoughts would be miniaturized. But best of all, in the future, these electronic gates couldn't control a robot arm, they could control your own arm or your legs so that you could walk again. Who knows how long it will take to get there, but researchers are on the road and Kathy Hutchinson's name will go down in history. Some figures this morning on unemployment fell by 45,000 between January and March to 2.3 million, official figures have shown this morning. The father of 6 children who died at the Derby House fire has held a press conference. Mick Philpott lost his children in a blaze that ripped through the house last Friday. Police believe it was started deliberately. $2,800 jobs for Clinton Card's birthday stores. The closure of 350 stores. Administrators of the firms have announced the closures will begin next week. The new Vauxhall Astra is to be built at Ellesmere Port, creating hundreds of new jobs, the firm announced today. The announcement came after union members voted in favour of a package of changes to working conditions. The Home Secretary has been heckled by Police Federation members at their conference, as she said changes to their pay and conditions were reforms which hard-working police officers should welcome. Sport, and Kenny Dalglish has been sacked as Liverpool manager after talks with the club's owners in the US yesterday. The Reds won the League Cup this season but finished a disappointing 8th place in the Premier League. Finally, before a quick look at the papers, Will Smith was in London yesterday to attend the premiere of his new film Men in Black 3. He was joined by co-stars Josh Brolin, Emma Thompson and Alice Eve. Earlier yesterday he met members of Team GB and said he would be back in London for the Olympic Games. Smith said he was enjoying making Men in Black 3 because it allowed him to come back to a character he knew and a role he enjoyed. He said making the film was like a family reunion, despite it being 10 years since the crew members worked together on Men in Black 2. Smith said the new film, also starring Tommy Lee Jones, was the most unique film he had ever been in. The film sees Smith's character travel back in time to the 1960s to prevent an alien assassinating his colleague, played in the flashback scenes by Josh Brolin. Brolin said he was nervous about playing the young version of Jones's character. Also attending the premiere was former Pussycat Doll Nicole Scherzinger, accompanied by boyfriend Lewis Hamilton. The film is in cinemas from Friday, May the 25th. Okay, the papers now up this morning, and the Daily Express, that says death of the euro. That is the story we reported first on this morning. The Daily Mail says, how much longer can the euro survive? Another similar story on their paper this morning. The Daily Mirror, recession, it's all the Queen's fault. That's so they claim on the Mirror this morning. They are trying to blame the Queen for this problem. The I newspaper says King blames Queen for stifling growth. Again, blaming the Queen for this issue. The Daily Telegraph runs a different story this morning saying statins for all over 50s to reduce heart deaths. The Guardian shows an image there of an expensive building. Independent says vulture finds circle as Greece fears grow. That's again linked to the euro. The Sun this morning reports on the Derby House fire saying, who killed my kids? Mick weeps for his 6 children. Finally, the Times says euro crisis hits mortgages. That is the front pages this morning. And that's the way the news is looking this morning. We're of course back with the GAP lunchtime news. Meanwhile, from all of us here on the early team, it's goodbye and thanks for watching.